Go. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marcus King, and I'm here to present my presentation on the street gangs of the Northern Triangle of Central America. Background information. The Central American Triangle consists of three countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. This area is plagued by chronic violence, corruption, and a lack of economic opportunities. And because of the violence, corruption, and lack of economic opportunities, there are a high number of people leaving this area, migrating and looking to seek asylum at the U.S. and Mexican border. Because of this violence and corruption and things of that nature, there is constant international intervention from countries like the U.S., Canada, and different international organizations such as the UN. This area also has a long history of civil unrest. Because of the civil unrest, there's a huge gang problem in the Northern Triangle of Central America. The gangs account for the large numbers of the homicides that occurred within the triangle. The two most prominent gangs are MS-13 and M18, and you're usually going to war with territory and things like that, because with territory becomes power, because you have control over different type of trades, whether it's the drug trade or like the human trafficking trade and different like that. You have power. So the money flows through your territory. You have control of everything. And the gangs are basically a product of the unstable infrastructure in this country, these countries, because you have several civil wars within El Salvador with fighting over social and economic reform. You have the Honduras coup of 2009, in which the former president of Honduras was violating the Constitution and basic human rights of the people of Honduras, leading to heavy corruption within the government. You have several Guatemalan civil wars over the years that's basically left these countries infrastructurally unstable, and left the people basically no real structure. As I say, no real structure, leaving these people to join these type of criminal organizations to make ends meet and things like that, because they see no real light at the end of the tunnel. They see no real opportunities within these countries. It's a short little video on the type of conditions people live in the Northern Triangle.
President Donald Trump has imposed a zero-tolerance policy against migrants trying to cross the southern border into the United States.
The United States will not be a migrant camp, and it will not be a refugee holding facility. It won't be. You look at what's happening in Europe, you look at what's happening in other places. We can't allow that to happen to the United States, not on my watch.
He's spoken of wanting to avoid a situation similar to the one in Europe. The European migrant crisis stemmed mainly from the ongoing civil war in Syria, with nearly half of all refugees coming from the war-torn country. Whilst there is nothing on the scale of the conflict in Syria driving people to the United States, it is clear that the violence plaguing parts of Central America is a huge factor. The biggest increases in migration come from three countries referred to as the Northern Triangle: Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. 110,000 asylum seekers came from the Northern Triangle in 2015, 5 times more than in 2012. Menaced by drug trafficking, corruption, and violent crime by gangs such as MS-13, the region is considered one of the deadliest in the world. A lot of that is to do with geography. It's sandwiched between some of the world's largest drug producers in South America and the world's largest consumer of illegal drugs, the US. The Northern Triangle has become a conduit of crime, as 90% of all cocaine that flows into the US comes through the region. The murder rate in these countries is shockingly high. El Salvador is the deadliest place in the world that's not a war zone, with more than 5,200 people killed in 2016. Extortion is also rampant, with Salvadorians paying an estimated $400 million in extortion fees to organized crime groups. This legacy of poverty, corruption, and crime can be traced back to the long-lasting instability in the region. Decades-long civil wars in El Salvador and Guatemala killed thousands, and the large number of unemployed men with easy access to weapons morphed into organized criminal groups. And gangs did not just form in these countries. MS-13 actually originated in Los Angeles in the 1980s by Salvadorians who had fled the Civil War. The gang grew in scale throughout Central America following large-scale deportations from the U.S. of undocumented immigrants with criminal records in the 1990s. All this despite the fact that the U.S. has provided over $1 billion of aid over the past decade to combat organized crime in the region. The president continues to talk tough on migrants trying to enter the U.S. at the southern border. But until violent crime is quashed in the Northern Triangle, thousands of people will continue to flee the region for a better life.
So basically, that's basically a summarize of the video. The video basically gives people a little insight of what it's like living in these type of conditions for these people, living through corruption and crime and other things like that. So one of the major gangs in the area is MS-13. That's just MS-13. It originated in the late 70s and 80s in Los Angeles, California. Originally, the gang was set up to protect Salvadorian immigrants from other gangs in the Los Angeles area. It was made up of mainly Salvadorian men who fled El Salvador during the time of the Civil War, and who were deported back to El Salvador after the closure of the Civil War. It's the largest presence in the Central American Triangle and internationally, with several, pockets of MS-13 around the U.S., Mexico, now in Canada, and things like that. They have their hands in murders, the illegal drug trade, prostitution, racketeering, money laundering, extortion, kidnapping, and robbery, illegal immigration, and battery. And M18, the other street gang. The street gang that's, plaguing violence in the Central American Triangle. The 18th Street Gang started near 18th Street and UN Avenue and the Rampart District of Los Angeles, California. Unlike MS-13, where the group was made out of Salvadorian immigrants who fled, a war and things like that. The M8 group was a result of a split of a group originally called the Clanton 14, who refused to let different, Hispanic immigrants and things like that into the group, which led to the split, which led to the formation of M18. The group is known to be, multiracial. You have, different conglomerate of races coming together under the same, banner and things like that. Due to heavy recruitment into Central America, to countries mostly like Guatemala and Honduras. The group has started a deadly turf war with MS-13, which results in one of the highest homicide rates within an area in the world. The gang has in drug trafficking, assault, arson, robbery, kidnapping, pandering, money laundering, extortion, arms trafficking, human trafficking, theft, murder, and racketeering and fraud and things like that. Thank you, and that's the end of my PowerPoint.